Alright, I am back with another Sun-Moon combination for you. Today we are covering Sagittarius Sun with Taurus Moon. The Moon will be entering Taurus tonight at about 8:43 p.m. and so any baby that is born between now until about Sunday will have a Sagittarius Sun and a Taurus Moon, and I want to give a description of what that looks like in combination. This series is all about explaining what Sun and Moon placements are like when they're interacting with each other, because I feel like that is half the game. And today you're going to see why that is such an important distinction to make, because being a Sagittarius Sun and having a Taurus Moon, they are vastly different placements. And then this weekend we're going to be covering having a Gemini Moon that's direct opposition of having a Sagittarius Sun. And so I'm wanting to give these detailed descriptions of how they interact with each other, because if you go watch an individual video about your Sagittarius Sun and then go watch a video talking about your Taurus Moon or a Gemini Moon, you're going to get vastly conflicting information. And so I want to explain how they potentially interact with each other. So let's get started. So if you have a Sagittarius Sun, you are really fun, optimistic, idealistic, and you have a great sense of humor. And a lot of Sagittarius are known for insulting people through jokes, and they're very blunt and speak their mind, but they always kind of resort to doing it in a humorous way. Sagittarius Suns tend to be highly individualistic and love their freedom, and they avoid like the boring, mundane things that may tie them down. They don't like routine. But when you have a Taurus Moon, that can be quite different, because when you have a Taurus Moon, you really it's a placement that really does enjoy stability and security, and they crave it actually, and they like routine, and they get this kind of this sensual enjoyment and pleasure out of just the everyday things. They like to eat good food, you know, have a hot bath, wrap themselves in a warm fuzzy blanket after a cold winter's day. Like, they really take pleasure in the, I guess, what most Sagittarius would consider to be boring, mundane things. And so having this placement may change your level of how much you avoid things like commitment and mundane routine as like a typical Sagittarius. I think the way this plays out is, as a Sagittarius, you like adventure and you like doing spontaneous things, but maybe with having this placement, you're not as like spontaneous as a typical Sagittarius. Definitely not as much as the last placement I did with an Aries Moon. You are more methodical and practical about your adventures. So one thing a Sagittarius is not doing when they have a Taurus Moon is going on adventures that jeopardize their security and their stability, right? So they're not going on trips that they can't afford, and they're moving to a city only when they know they can afford it. They're getting a new job when they're quitting their job when they have a new one lined up. You know, they're just a lot more practical and sensible about the way that they go about their adventures and having fun, because they still do want to do that, and that is still a strong part of their identity, but they're not going to jeopardize their financial stability, their emotional stability, and they're just a lot more risk averse than a typical Sagittarius. And that is not a bad thing. I actually do think that this can potentially balance out a Sagittarius Sun quite nicely. So there is a way that Sagittarius and with a Taurus Moon is able to kind of work together in harmony, and I think that is through by having practical adventures that allow you to establish a routine and a home base and some level of security. It's a very stable placement, having a Taurus Moon. You are very emotionally stable, practical, and patient, which can actually really balance out having a Sagittarius Sun, because Sagittarius are quite impatient and spontaneous and may kind of neglect the day-to-day responsibilities. But when you have a Taurus Moon, I think that can balance you out quite nicely. It's quite a stubborn placement, so you do dig your heels in, and you have quite a bit of perseverance though, which is again a reflection of the patience that you have, is that when you start something you are more inclined to finish it than a normal Sagittarius, and definitely more so than the last placement I did, which was a Sagittarius Sun with an Aries Moon. So you are more likely to persevere through things. Having a Taurus Moon, or really any Earth Moon, when you have a fire sun sign, does help balance out your kind of tendency to start something and then like with flames and then fizzle out. And so when you have an Earth Moon, that can really help you with your perseverance and sticking with something until it's finished. And then the other aspect of this sign, which is interesting because coupled with a Sagittarius Sun, it can be quite polarizing, is that having a Taurus Moon means that you tend to be kind of possessive of your loved ones, because you kind of see your loved ones as a form of security and safety net for you. And that is quite different from Sagittarius, who likes spontaneity. They don't want to be tied down, and they don't want to be controlled in any way. And so this is quite different. And so I think that with having a Taurus Moon, you are actually far more likely to get into a committed relationship and to settle down. That is something that I think is far more likely for someone with a Taurus Moon than other Sagittarius. And because they do find this level of comfort and security and stability from having loved ones around them. And so having a Taurus Moon will definitely balance out your Sagittarius Sun's fear of commitment. Alright, so that is all I have for today. That was Sagittarius Sun with Taurus Moon. Now in a few days time, it'll be Sunday morning, I believe, that the moon will enter Gemini, and then right after that we will have a full moon in Gemini. So stay tuned, this is going to be an interesting one coming up because the sun and moon are in direct opposition of each other, so it's going to be interesting seeing how this plays out in a person. So stay tuned, and I will be back with another video later this week.